All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to this thing that doesn't have a cool name yet, but it's basically a time where in the middle of the week we look back at what we talked about on Sunday. I give you some of my thoughts, just as pastor of, hey, what did we talk about? Is there anything that we didn't get to explore? What was cool? What stands out? If you didn't make it on Sunday, what do you need to know? What do you need to know to be caught up? All that kind of stuff. Also, probably some pretty distracted things. We're just going to see what it is. But if you're watching, hi. I hope your week is going well. I hope you are abiding with Jesus this week. I hope you are listening to God every day, finding a way to eat with somebody, acting in society, and doing it now because Jesus is with you. So let's go ahead and get this thing done. So on Sunday, we talked about the Beatitudes in Matthew 5. That's in Matthew 5:1, and we went through the section on salt and light that ends in Matthew 5:16. I'm going to read it for you really quick. It says this, and I'm reading out of the NLT, just in case you didn't know. One day as he saw the crowds gathering, Jesus went up on the mountainside and sat down. His disciples gathered around him, and he began to teach them. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you and say all sorts of evil things against you because you are my followers. Be happy about it. Be very glad, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way. You are the salt of the earth. But what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It will be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. This is the word of the Lord for his people. All right, so just a couple quick things from us from this last week. As I was working on this, so some of my kind of main sources in doing some research, if you guys want to get into any of it, Scott McKnight and Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Scott McKnight in his, I'm trying to pick it up, this commentary, Story of God commentary from the Sermon on the Mount, and he actually draws from Bonhoeffer a decent amount in it as well. Bonhoeffer, if you're not familiar with him, go get The Cost of Discipleship. It's an incredible book. But as we look at this passage, the Beatitudes are interesting, and you can get caught up in discussions about what does it mean to be blessed, or some translations say happy. This one says, God blesses those. There's so many places to get tripped up here in trying to define and over-define things, right? What does it mean for someone to be poor in spirit? Or the NLT here says poor and realize their need for him. What exactly does it mean to be somebody who mourns? What does it mean to hunger and thirst for righteousness or justice? What does it mean to be a peacemaker? What does it mean to be merciful? It's just a landmine of places where, and Bonhoeffer specifically speaks against this, places where we can find all of the little ways to finagle out of just simple, whole life obedience to what Jesus wants us to do. And to be fair, your response might be, well, I genuinely don't know, or I genuinely don't understand. I don't understand what it means to be this, and what are we supposed to do with it. But I think what helps us, and McKnight especially talks about this, is we misunderstand the Beatitudes if we see them as a list of attributes or qualities that we are to aspire to, right? Things that we are supposed to try to be or try to reach. Like I should try to be this or try to become that. It's not the worst goal in the world, but it misses something. And the thing it misses solves our other problem of how do we understand this, which is this is a description of just who God blesses, who is at the center of Jesus's heart, what Jesus's kingdom looks like. And honestly, I think it's a picture of Jesus as well. This is what Jesus looks like, you know. And so I think anytime when we come to the Beatitudes and we begin to either be confused about what exactly it means, or anytime that we come to the Beatitudes and feel ourselves trying to wiggle our way out of a form of obedience or humility or anything that looks like this, we have to remember to go back to the living person of Jesus, right? Like this is accomplished in us. This is not formation that we are supposed to set ourselves after. The video stopped there. I have no idea why. We'll see if it does it again. So if you see a weird cut, that's why. We're getting this thing figured out. But so this is what I was saying. This is the Beatitudes are not like a formational goal. They are a picture of what life in Jesus looks like. So our formational goal is actually just to remain in and abide in Jesus. Right? Like that's what this should point us toward, that this is a description of his kingdom, what life with him looks like, what his life looks like, and how he forms us to rely on him, to be peacemakers, to be merciful, to hunger for righteousness, to bless us when we mourn, when we are going through persecution, hardships, troubles, all these kinds of things. So it brings us back again and again to who is Jesus? What does God look like? And he looks like this. And that connects us to, I think, the salt and light passage, which is, what does it mean to live a salty life? What does it mean to not cover your light? And in the context of this passage, I think it means that we aren't embarrassed by the backwards, upside down way that Jesus's kingdom looks in the Beatitudes. Because this is all backwards, right? That God's blessing is on the poor and the weak and the mourning and the merciful, the people who are trying to make peace. When you would expect, especially in like Jesus's context, for the divine powers to bless those who have power, who are powerful, those with authority, those trying to use it, those who are conquering, those who are overtaking and ruling. This is all completely backwards. And it can be really weird and at times almost really embarrassing to live in the Jesus-shaped upside down way of God's kingdom. It just can. It can look really, really silly to be trying to accomplish the things of God in God's way and in the way that he leads us to at times. It looks like foolishness sometimes, and it looks like weakness. And so I think we cover that when we either are embarrassed by it or when we try to circumvent Jesus's way and try to, this is where later in the Sermon on the Mount, you find the stuff where he warns, Jesus warns against showing off. Showing off is trying to circumvent this in the other direction by trying to use the ways of the world, influence, power, to accomplish the things of God without working in the ways of God, which doesn't work because God is the one who set this all up. And so, there's really interesting stuff here, and there's a ton. Obviously, there's books and books and books and books and books written on the Sermon on the Mount. But I think what I have been so affected by in preparing these sermons, in getting things ready to go through the Sermon on the Mount, and how we started week 1 actually at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, is how much this is just about Jesus. And obviously that's a duh, right? I mean, like, it's the Gospels, it's the Bible, so there's a way in which we always assume that it might be about Jesus, but that the description of this picture of the Christian life, of what it means to follow Jesus, is not even about these standards or these specific activities or actions. It's about whether or not we will be brave enough and humble enough to give Jesus everything we have, our lives, our hands, our hearts, our minds, our obedience, our actions, and let him do with them what he wants. And if we will actually listen to him and follow him. That's the whole Sermon on the Mount. And we were formed in the middle of that context, that the formation that happens here, the higher bars that Jesus calls us to, that we'll go over for the next few weeks, all the different ways where Jesus says, you've heard it said this, but I now say this, and keeps raising the bar, that he's not raising the bar for us aspirationally, like in ways that we're supposed to just go do and change and act different. We should act different if we're not doing them, but it's not about just changing behavior. It's about putting ourselves in the presence of the person of Jesus and allowing him to form our behavior, and submitting our behavior, our actions, our hearts, our thoughts to him, and letting him give them back to us, redeemed and restored. This week, as we're getting ready for next week we are talking about Jesus and the law, and how he fulfills it, what it means to fulfill it, and what he means by fulfilling it, what we find in all of this, and what to do with all these raised bars. And especially at the end of this next section, the end of chapter 5, Jesus says that we need to be perfect. And so we'll explore what that means a little bit. So either come to church on Sunday at 3:30 or come back here next week. We'll talk through a bit of it. But love y'all. Hope you guys are having a good week, and we will see you soon.